The Liberal team is fighting for you to build more homes and protect renters, to deliver dental care and free contraceptives and diabetes medications.
The Liberals this week finally dropped some new digital ads, which had been teased partly to stave off dissent from within caucus and to reassure members that the party does have a plan going into the next election. The Conservatives, meanwhile, continue to outpace the Liberals when it comes to fundraising. According to new financial returns filed with Elections Canada, the Tories raised $29 million in the first 9 months of the year. The Liberals just over $10 million, and the NDP almost $4 million. So will the new ads be effective in turning the tide on leadership questions around the Prime Minister? Our Sunday strategy session is here to talk about that. Corey tonight was Ontario Premier Doug Ford's campaign manager and former Director of Communications for Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Scott Reid is a former communications director to Prime Minister Paul Martin, and Kathleen Monk is a former NDP strategist and director of communications to the late Jack Layton. Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Good to see you. Kathleen, I'll start with you. Your impression of what these ads aim to do and whether they will do that.
Yeah, I think tactically this ad is more actually developed for Liberal caucus than it is for Canadian voters. Why? Because generally in politics, you want to be forward-looking. And I found actually really quizzical the reach back to the COVID vaccine thing. Number one, because in focus groups, time and time again, Canadians tell us that they've moved on from the COVID kind of experience. And frankly, the Liberals already got their electoral bounce from COVID. That was 2021. Remember when they called that election early? So I found it really strange. And in fact, if I was giving advice to the Liberals, which again, I don't do on the regular or ever, I would actually say, keep Pierre Poilievre out of this right now, that they need to work on changing right track, wrong track numbers. And they actually should go more positive, more forward looking on the economy, on jobs, on basically doing the things that Canadians still consider are top of mind. I guess one of the things I think weird is in this ad, the first of these two ads that they've been rolling out, is that they actually give themselves a lot of credit. And in politics, you should always give the voter and Canadians credit. And I think that's where they really, really failed, where they should have actually said, hey, we made it through this affordability crisis. We did make it through all these other struggles. And thanks for that. Nobody wants to give politicians these days a kind of participation medal at all. And so that's where I think this ad went wrong.
It seems like, just jumping off what Kathleen said, Scott, both of these so far are focused on doing what the Liberals have told us in interviews they feel like they can say is their shortcoming, aka what we have done is great, we just haven't punched through to Canadians. They don't get that what's going on has worked for them, because both of these ads are focused on essentially saying, look at all the things that we have put in the window for you so far. But to Kathleen's point, there's nothing about what more is to come. Yet, at least.
Yeah, that's not my complaint, to be honest. There is a bit of that, but I think they're trying to set up the argument against Pierre Poilievre. And if I was going to quibble, my quibble would be bring on the heat and bring more of the heat. And I would aim straight at Pierre Poilievre. The reality is, this deep into your term with numbers like this, your first job is to persuade people they should hesitate in their inclination, their stated, obvious, clear inclination to vote for the Conservatives. So I'd go even harder. There has to be a little bit of the Prime Minister and a little bit of the record so that you can make the argument this is all that's going to be lost if you move to Poilievre. But I would be even more explicit in that. But look, this is ice cream in summer to Liberals. They've been desperately waiting for these ads for so long. And the fundamental question really is it too late? Will you succeed in driving votes away from the Conservatives? But will you be the beneficiary of it? And that's the big challenge. Are people willing to not just reconsider where they're headed for Pierre Poilievre, but whether they're willing to return to the Liberals?
What is your sense, Corey, of the question on timing and whether this is essentially not too little but too late, or whether it still can be impactful at this stage of the game, given we don't know exactly when the next election is?
Well, given the fundraising numbers that you talked about off the top, clearly financial resources are going to be limited for the Liberals. They're being outraised 3-1 by the Conservatives on the basis of those most recent results. But they should have started sooner. They should have started right after he became leader. That's when your brand is the weakest as an opposition leader, and where you're able to get the most mileage in terms of helping people form their opinions for the least amount of money. And I think that ship has sailed. I agree with Kathleen's comments in particular. If I were to title these ads something, it would be more of the same. It's a retrospective look on their record, which is, I think, a pretty tepid view of it, frankly. and saying, if you reelect us, we'll keep you'll get to keep the things that we've already done. Well, Canadians are not feeling very charitable about the things the Liberals have done at this point in time. I think Scott's probably closer to where they should be, which is you've got to talk a little bit more about the other guy and bring his numbers down. I also agree they have to get their right track numbers up, but I'm not sure that ad does it. It looks like like a bunch of government research presented in a tepid political spot.
Kathleen, though, sort of jumping off that into what you initially said about how it's aimed at caucus. I mean, this is coming out against the backdrop of a pretty rough month for the Prime Minister. A week and a half ago, more than 24 MPs asked him to step aside in caucus. A week later, Andrew Bevin, the new campaign director, came and essentially showed them these ads and said, here's what we're going to do between now and the next election, to allay a lot of their concerns because they hadn't seen a plan before. As far as the mutiny, the revolt, whatever we're going to call it, is your sense is that is over?
Will this stop it? I don't think so. I think the Liberals hope to. And I think by putting out a plan, showing these ads, they hope to move it along. But remember, the whole theme of this ad right now, the first of these two ads that they've been rolling out is that it's on a bunch of new Democratic programs, pharmacare and dental care, and it's using Kamala Harris's tagline from the Democratic campaign in the States, which is "We won't go back," right? So what does that tell you? It kind of tells you that they're a bit bereft of ideas right now. And so hopefully, ads 3, 4, 5, 6 will move in that direction. But I think at least it shows signs of life. If I'm to be charitable, there's a new campaign director. He's a very smart man. Hopefully he'll get them on track. Whether we'll stop the mutiny, we'll see.
What is your sense, Scott, of where things stand or where things go with the pushback on the Prime Minister's leadership right now?
I think we've moved from pitched battles to siege territory. I think the reality is that there's kind of a new normal that's settled in. I don't know that I would look to every single National Caucus meeting now as a potential explosion, but the 24 members who want the Prime Minister to leave, supplemented by goodness knows how many more who don't have the courage to say it but feel that way. I think that's just going to continue to linger, and it's there, as is, like the dozen who think that we should have a secret ballot. There's no way in hell they're going to allow a secret ballot on his leadership and caucus, so I don't think we'll see that revisited in any forceful way. But this is the new normal now for the Liberal Party of Canada. The Prime Minister is going to say that they've turned the page. The truth of the matter is the book is still stands open, and hopefully Andrew Bevin, the new campaign director, can keep folks focused and distracted on new tactics, new ads, new energy long enough that you don't have any more of these huge outbursts. But that sentiment has not disappeared, and it ain't going to disappear until and unless the Prime Minister can close the massive gap with the Conservatives. That's the cause of the disruption, and it will remain there until and unless that gap is closed.
Yeah, Corey, is essentially, does the Prime Minister now have to start to move the numbers in order to quell that pushback, or does it, in the absence of that movement, continue to exist as Scott spells it out?
Yeah, I think Scott's right that it continues to smolder under the surface, and those flames will reignite. I think anytime there's another proof point, like a lost by-election or a misstep of one form or another, or another serious decline in their support, even from its already low levels. I don't think they're going to have much success in changing their trajectory until they change their mindset. Like, those ads, I think, are a reflection of what we've heard from the PMO and the Prime Minister, which is that they have a communications problem, not a substance problem. And I think a lot of Canadians that are voting for them who did in the past would say, no, they have a substance problem. Like, people are looking for the, what are you going to do differently? Maybe some contrition in some areas of having gotten some things wrong. We saw a tiny bit of that around immigration the other week, but I think it needs to be more forceful and more talked about as to where they're going to take the country and what they're going to do differently if they want to change people's minds. But as long as they just think they need to have a better polished version of the same tired message, I think it's not going to work.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. Thanks, everyone. Corey Tonight, Scott Reid, and Kathleen Monk, our Sunday strategy session. More question period just ahead.